to wait for the red light. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please? All quiet, please. Go ahead, check out your notes. Come on, chop, chop. Take out your notes. We're going to continue on looking at how a bill becomes a law. Isn't it, though? You haven't even heard the last of it. I mean, in one way, it's kind of like, it could be easy. You could just like give all power to just one person and like they could just make, write on a piece of paper and that's the law. Would you like that? No. I mean, it's kind of frustrating if we have to go through a long, convoluted process and like you really end up with like nothing ever getting done sometimes, as opposed to one person has complete power and authority over everything. But you don't seem to like either, huh? Make up your mind. You want somewhere in between? Yeah, me too. All right, so here we go. You got your notes out? We're looking at the government. We're looking at the situation, right? And you're looking at my new thing. Most of you guys are facing that direction. Yeah, I think I'm going to change the John Hanson. This picture's not big enough. Is that going to make it better for you? Jan, is that okay? John Hanson is the first president of the United States under the Articles of Confederation, which did not work out very well and were abandoned within like 10 years. If you were here last year, you would know. Before we went to the Constitution, you can learn it before, the Articles of Confederation were the first national document. And it gave, JT remembers this, did it give most of the power to the national government or did it keep power in the states? Very good. And did that work out very well? Or did the states start fighting with each other? Exactly. So they're like, hey, let's all come together and be a strong United States. So they did. Came up with the Constitution. And so who's the first real president with like real power? George Washington, exactly. And who is the current president who has that same office? Joe Biden, exactly. So there we go. It's all balanced, yeah. Yep.
Was that like that old paper that like all the presidents signed? Oh,
well, there's a lot of important papers. Well, we got the Declaration of Independence where we told, and that was signed by most of the people who attended the Second Continental Congress when the Declaration of Independence was done, something we covered last year. The signers of the Declaration of Independence. And I've got a copy. Actually, that's not a copy of it. That's a copy of the Constitution. Okay? No, wait. Yes, no, that's the Constitution. There is I don't have a copy of the Declaration and so forth. Because the Declaration starts out, one in the course in human events, yada, 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 and Britain, you suck, and we're going to be independent now. Okay? I paraphrase. Yeah, but not that much. That was signed, and so was the Constitution. But the reality is, and this is in your notes and so forth, right? If you don't like the Constitution, you can change it. And you use pretty much the same method that was used to adopt the Constitution. It has to be ratified by the states. Follow-up, quick question.
Well, I asked that, but I was wondering, where's the real Declaration of Independence? I went there.
It's in the National Archives.
Well, I went to the Philadelphia or whatever, and I saw two of them.
It's in Washington, D.C. They had copies of the Declaration of Independence because they printed off copies and distributed them around the colonies, so-called states. Yep. It's not too far from the Capitol building. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. If you were like going from the White House on the way to the Capitol and your goal wasn't to like break into the Capitol and cause all kind of chaos, if you actually were there as a tourist, about halfway down there's a building. It's called the Archives. I remember getting a special tour. We got to see the back of the Declaration of Independence where there's a treasure map. I'm just kidding. National treasure. There's not a treasure map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. Anyway, but it's there. And they have the important original documents that were signed for the Constitution and for the Declaration of Independence. Quickly, because I want to keep moving on this.
Aren't they like under like these really bright lights that get all these lasers?
They're under all kinds of protection. And protection against like, diminishment as far as like, the ink, and also protection from thieves and vandals and so forth.
How does the white not like bleach it?
Because they put it on, they put behind special glass so you don't have direct sunlight come in. You guys know this. If you like put stuff in direct sunlight after a period of time, it fades. And the color red fades the quickest. So anyway. They also have a way of like having it go down deep into the ground for protection.
There was actually ways in
Okay. All right. Speaking of laws, are you ready? Laws. Very, very interesting. Important. Laws. Because I'm going to recap. I'm trying to actually get a sense of exactly how far, because there's all kinds of different little weird paths and so forth we can go. What was the last thing I said about doing a law last time, Anna? Can't read that. You can read that. Yeah, tell me what was the last thing I taught you.
Okay, well, they go through the legislative branch. Tax laws, they should pass first.
Did I take you through this? I took you through that, didn't I?
Oh, yeah.
We took you through that. Did we talk about what happens when it gets to the president? And does it make any difference what's going on with Congress? Oh, then I'm going to have to tell you. Okay? All right, let's recap. I'm going to recap what you know, and you're going to be adding a little bit more to this. Okay? So who's our senator? You were the senator? Okay?
Yes.
So we got your bill through, right? Got introduced, committee, got out of committee, went to the full Senate. We have the filibuster part. We covered that, right? Good, okay. So it got out of the full Senate, got a vote, had at least there wasn't a bunch of people that wanted to filibuster, but presumably at least 60 votes in favor. Went over to the House, got changed along the way, but you ultimately passed in the full House, right? Am I giving you anything that you don't know already? Once it got to the full House and so forth, what happened next? What's this conference committee? Who's on the conference committee? This is very important. Are there members of the House? Are there members of the Senate?
Yes,
Are there Republicans?
yes, no,
Are there Democrats?
no,
Would the person who wrote the bill like to be on that committee?
no.
Shh, I'm asking Ava. Ava, what is the goal of that committee? It only exists for one purpose, and then it disappears after it reaches that purpose. Come up with a compromise version. And then where does that compromise version go once they reach the compromise version? The full Senate and the full House, where it gets voted on. And if it passes the full Senate and the full House, then where does it go? Good. Okay, now, we got it to the president. Let's go through this because it gets a little bit more complicated here. The simple thing is, it's on the president's desk. Now, add this part, because I don't think I gave this part. The president basically has 10 days. 10 days to make a decision on what to do. And there's actually 3 choices the president can do. You're like, I thought there was just 2. You either sign it or you veto it, right? I mean, that's kind of the obvious. If you like it, what will you do? You sign it. And then what is it called? It's called a law. I'm a law now, right? Did I already show you that silly video? Really? I didn't show you the I'm Just a Bill song? Oh, good. I'll show you that. Okay, I got it queued up. So it becomes a law. The president signs it. Did I tell you what happens if the president vetoes it? Good. Keep going. Well, I mean, they can reintroduce the ideas as a new bill and so forth. But as far as that bill that got vetoed, can they bring it back to life? I'm not sure if I covered that with you. Did I? The word is override. Write that down. Override. They can vote to override the veto. Don't lean against my things. It's dangerous. Okay, yeah, because some of those countries, I mean, oh my gosh, you do not want to mess with Malaysia or Thailand or Laos. Your life will be lousy if you mess with the Laotian flag. So, an override is this. It goes back to the House, goes back to the Senate. They can override the president's veto. It's okay, JT. They can override the president's veto, and then it passes after they override. Which do you suppose is necessary to override? The House, the Senate, or both? Write it down. Very good. Both. And what about the percentage required? The fraction required. Janet, did we get that? I don't think we did. Did we? You want a choice? We did?
Yes, 3/5.
No, it's not 3/5. Nice try. 3/5 is, you don't have to remember 3/5 that much. That's the one for getting rid of a filibuster.
Oh,
It is 2/3, right? Make sure if you don't have that already, it's 2/3, which is a real high requirement. 2/3. If 2/3 of the House overrides the veto, 2/3 of the Senate overrides the veto, JT, what happens? JT? And does it mean it's law? Yes, in spite of the president's veto. Put this down. That doesn't happen very often. Usually when a president vetoes, that's it. Because getting 2/3 is really pretty hard. Although, think of this. What do you think? Michael, the president has got a bill on his or her desk. It's got 10 days. The clock is running. It passed the Senate by 90-10. Well clear of a simple majority. It passed the House, let's say, 400-35. Another big. So now it's on the president's desk, and the president's like, man, I really don't like this bill. I'd like to veto it, but what do you suppose is going to happen if the president vetoes it? Is the president going to win, or is the president going to lose? Does the president like to look like a loser? The president doesn't like to be a loser. Most of the time, it's very rare. In fact, I have to double check this. I think that Trump got through his entire 4-year presidency without having any vetoes overridden. In fact, it's actually smart. Presidents typically do this. They look at the whole process going on here, all this like committees and votes and so forth, and they chime in early. They're like, wow, if you keep it the way it's written now, I'm going to veto it. So maybe you might want to just change it a bit to the way I like it. Because who's the most important person in this whole lawmaking thing? A member of Congress or the president? Wait on that. A member of Congress, a senator or a representative, or the president? The president is. The president. And really, the president doesn't get a say-so officially until it lands on the desk. But I tell you what, he can kill it or not. Now, put this down. You ready? There is a difference because there was one other thing that the president could do. Sign it, veto it, or ignore it. Yeah, just ignore it. Like, what happens if the president doesn't sign the bill? Listen carefully because it depends on something else. Now I'm going to introduce another wrinkle into this situation here. Are you ready? Sorry, this is the way it is. All right, you ready? It all depends on whether or not Congress is still in session. Write this down. If Congress is in session, they haven't quit for the year. What month do you suppose, Noah, they adjourn, quit for the year? December, yeah. So sometimes this happens. Congress is rush, 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 rush. They pass a bunch of stuff. It ends up on the president's desk, and they adjourn. They're no longer in session. That's a different situation. Most of the time, they're still in session. Lands on the president's desk. Hang on. Lands on the president's desk. The president's like, well, I can sign it. Okay, fine. Or I can veto it. If Congress is still in session, what do you think, Vera? If Congress is still in session, could they vote to override the veto? Yeah, because they're still in session. I mean, they're still doing their thing. But what if the president is like, I'm not going to veto it because they're going to override it and then I'll look like a big loser, but I'm not going to sign it because I don't want to be bullied into that. So here's what happens if, you ready? If Congress is still in session, the president doesn't sign it. After 10 days, drum roll, it becomes law. Write it down. It's called, it becomes law without the signature. But that's only if Congress is still in session. And that's basically when the president kind of sizes things up and says, I really don't like it, but I don't want to have a veto overridden, so I'm not going to, bother to put my name on the thing. Fine. You can have your way. It can become law without a signature. Do you got that? Now, let's get really quickly to what happens if Congress is not in session. If Congress is not in session, they've just passed a bill, they send it to the president, 10 days start to run, but Congress isn't in session, the president vetoes it. I mean, they're not even in session to try and override it. If the president signs it, it becomes law. What happens, hold on, what happens, Michael, if the president doesn't sign the bill and Congress is not in session? Oh no, something happens. It's either dead or it's a law. Dead. Okay? And there's a special word for it. Write this down. It's called pocket veto. It's the last word on page 1 in your handout. Pocket veto. It's in the handout. Pocket veto. You need to have that in front of you because that's going to help you a great deal. Pocket veto. It's almost like the president said, I hate it, but you know what? I'm not even going to take the time to take out my little veto stamp and veto that thing because I'd kill it if I vetoed it, especially since you guys aren't around. I'm just going to take it, fold it twice, stick it in my pocket, and poof, it's gone. It's called a pocket veto. And that only happens when the president doesn't sign it after 10 days and Congress is not in session. So this would be typically like late December type thing. You got that? Oh, trust me. They were trying to pass bills in late December because, like, I don't know, we got COVID going on and we got all kinds of, economic challenges and so forth. Yes, Michael?
Wait, where is it?
The pocket veto. It's a slightly different version of a veto.
Oh,
Yep. Page 1 of the handout. Okay? Slightly different version of the veto. You got that? Isn't the American government weird sometimes? Yeah, all right, now here we go. We got some other things going on here. All right, now, I teach you this because this is sort of the way things go and everything. In fact, actually, before we get to okay, Mr. Hansen's going to get all cynical and tell us the way things really happen these days. Sorry, let's show you the fun, animated version that they did, a cartoon for children in the 1970s to help them learn how a bill becomes a law. Because this was actually pretty close to how many bills became a law when my dad, Orville Hansen, was in Congress in the late 60s and early 70s. It went through this process very much. It was like that. All right, let's look at the video. It's kind of fun. It's clever. It's singing. It's ha, 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 ha. Here we go. And I'm actually going to critique this because there's some parts that aren't entirely accurate. One, as you know, bills don't talk. But that's okay, nor do they sing.
Just a bit.
There's the Capitol building. Needs more police.
You sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. But I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
Who is he?
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be a law someday.
Really?
Hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just
Over 90% of bills never become laws.
You certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a
Oh,
bill.
an idea.
Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called their local congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." And he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and I became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me a law. I'm just
Oh.
a bill. Yes,
Statutory Hall in the Capitol.
and I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well, now I'm stuck in committee, and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be a law. I hope and pray that they will, but today I am still just a bill.
Oh, do you want him to become a law? Are you becoming emotionally attached to this piece of paper that sings?
Listen to those congressmen arguing. Is all that discussion and debate about you?
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most bills never even get this far. I hope they decide to report on me favorably, otherwise I may die.
Die.
Yeah, die in committee.
How does an inanimate thing die? I don't know.
Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Oh, now look at that. Look at that. I'm sorry, I got to do this because it's like, you know me, like with movies, like if there's inaccuracies and so forth, you got to point this out. What was the level of support right here?
left.
Yeah, I would say, I don't see a no. Is that, let me see, there's a word for that. It's called unanimous. Same thing's going to happen in the Senate. So let me just throw this out because they're going to say, oh, if the president vetoes you, you're probably dead. See, if the president vetoes something that passed unanimously in the House and the Senate, yeah, it's alive. Yeah, it's going to become either veto override or it's going to become a law without signature. Unless they were silly enough to do it right before the session ended, in which case then you could get a pocket veto or whatever.
Go to the Senate and the whole thing starts.
So now they go over to the Senate. Oh, yeah.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol Hill, well, then I'm off to the White House.
How many days?
Hey,
10 days.
Other bills for the president.
You got 10 days, dude.
Besides me, then I'll be alone. I hope and pray that he will. But today I'm still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be allowed, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law.
That's true, except the way they drew it.
No, but I hope and pray that I will. But today
Oh.
still just
Is he going to get to become a law?
a bill. Now you're a law. Oh, yeah.
Oh, isn't that so encouraging? Yay! Yeah, that was a good one. I like that one. Hold on, here's one. This is only 10 seconds. This is from Family Guy.
They call me Bill. Yes, they call me Bill. And I'm standing here on Capitol.
You like those, don't you? Yeah, they're like, Did you want to see that again? Again. Cole. I think they got the same singer. He sounds the same.
Standing here on Capitol.
Okay, there we go. Poor Bill. Yeah, he got picked up. All right, now we got some other things. All right, here we go. All right, little reality. Okay? You ready? Write this down. Really, really important bills like, I don't know, economic stimulus bills that like where the government sends out like checks to all the people who are like dealing with the economic mess from COVID and so forth. Right? You know what I'm talking about? Does that go through that process?
yeah.
No, not really. Really, really important bills. Who are the most important people in really, really important bills? You ready? Write this down. The president, doesn't mean it's going to end up on the president's desk, so you got to have the president's input. And the leaders of the majority in the House and the Senate. You have to be careful in the Senate because do you consult with the leader of the minority party in the Senate? Well, yeah, you need to because if they got enough to put together a filibuster, you need to talk to them and have them on board. So here's what happens. They'll get together, the leaders, and they'll put together a bill that includes sometimes pages and pages and pages and pages. I'm not kidding you. Sometimes those bills have got that many pages because it's pretty complicated stuff. And then they'll send it through very quickly through the process. Goes to committee, comes right out of committee, goes to the floor, they have a vote on it. And you'll have members of the House and Senate sometimes are like, I'm not really sure what I'm voting on. Oh, have you read the bill? No, that's not possible. I mean, who can read the bill? So then, how are you going to vote for it? Yeah, I think I can trust my leader. Do you understand that? So in some of these really, really important things, big bills with a lot of impact, they don't necessarily go through that long rigmarole process and so forth. So a lot of power has been concentrated into very important leaders in the House and the Senate. In fact, it's interesting because nowadays some of the members of the House and the Senate are like, what am I doing here in Washington, D.C.? I'm a rookie member, and all I can do is I can't really get bills through. Maybe I should just go on television and do interviews and like spout off and so forth. In fact, that's where some of the most well-known members of the House and Senate are, is because they are on television news spouting off about various different things. Because how long do you suppose it takes to actually rise up to one of those top leadership positions? It takes a while. Yeah, go ahead, Trey.
So does the Congress just all day try to make and repeal? Wait, can you repeal a law?
Sure. Yeah, you create a new law.
No, no, sorry, not repeal, but like take it back and like. cancel it?
How you do is you create a new law.
Oh, create a new law and replace that.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, but is that all they do? Just like try to repeal and make new laws?
That's an important part of it. If you want to know what actually they spend a lot of time doing in Washington, D.C., it's not all just that. Nowadays, it's a variety of different things. Okay, shh. Oh. And sometimes it's like spending a lot of time raising money to run for re-election. Sorry, I don't want to make you too cynical and so forth on this. It's still representative, but it's tricky. Once upon a time, like when my dad was there, and he was a Republican, and they were in the minority in the House, and the Democrats were in the majority, and the Democrats, I think, were the majority. Frank Church was a Democratic senator from Idaho. Then there was a Republican senator from Idaho, and they were like, have you guys ever been up to Stanley? I was asking this in one of the other classes. Thank you very much. Do you guys know where the Sawtooth Mountains are? How many of you guys have seen the Sawtooth Mountains are? Are they cool? Right, that's a thing called this Sawtooth National Recreation Area. Have you heard of that? So you can go biking and hiking and camping and fishing, all kinds of stuff. Isn't that cool? How did that get created? By law. Who was part of that law?
Your dad.
My dad and the other members of Congress from Idaho, Republicans, Democrat, House, Senate. They went through the whole process. They got it. Boom, done. Which is pretty cool. And so the people who were like, wow, that's really cool. Before my dad died, they were like, we want to do something to say thank you. So, have you been to Redfish Lake? Raise your hand if you've been to Redfish Lake. Okay, so you know where the lodge is? So if you go off to the right, there's the day beach. You ever been to the day beach? Next time you go up there and you go to the day beach, look for a sign. Orville Hanson Point Beach. They named it after him. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, they named it after him. So that was kind of neat. Yeah, and then within the family, we kind of joke about it. My mom, within the family, we say they named the road going to the Orville Hanson Point Beach, they named it after her. As in, get to the point, the June Hanson Get to the Point Beach Road. Yeah, she thought, haha, that's pretty funny. Yeah, get to the point. And then I have 5 sisters, and I say, yeah, you all got named for something too. The parking lot there's 5 speed bumps. So it's like Margaret, boom, boom. Elizabeth, boom, boom. Catherine, boom, boom. Mary, boom, boom. One more. Sarah, boom, boom. So me and my brother, what did we get named for? No, we saved the best, or the most important, or anyway, an essential component named after us. The 2 restroom facilities. Yeah. The Jim and the John, right? There you go. Ba-dum-bum. Shh. So, yeah. But anyway, that was back in the day where you actually did have quite a bit of that. It doesn't necessarily work out that much. Okay? Now, you ready for some more? All right, now, write this down. In your handout, or in the thing there, you can see section 7, it says bills, resolutions, and vetoes. Let's talk about resolutions. You ready? Resolutions. I resolve to talk about resolutions. You ready? Kummer can write it down. Resolutions. You ready for a resolution? What does a resolution do? It resolves something. Whatever, it's a piece of paper. I'm just a resolution. Anyway, you could do a song about it, I suppose. It's a piece of paper. Now write this down. A basic resolution only is either in the House or the Senate. Okay? So you could have a Senate resolution, and guess where that is dealt with? In the Senate. Yeah, does it ever go to the House? No, it doesn't have to. Basically what it is, write this down. A resolution is like the opinion of the Senate. The opinion of the House is a House resolution. Sometimes it's not really that, controversial. Like some member of the House might introduce a resolution saying, we acknowledge and acclaim and are so proud of, healthcare workers during the COVID crisis. They just want to have it on the record, yaha! It's like passing around a thank you card, and getting 435 members of the House to sign it. Do you understand that? A resolution. Not very controversial, is it? There is one actually being considered in the Senate I'll be interested to see how it works out. Right now, the Senate actually is preparing, it's not going to happen on Monday, but the Monday after that, they're going to start a trial on the basis of the latest impeachment that came of President Trump. Got that? Trey, you got that? Now, there's no jail involved and so forth on that. Basically, the only consequence would be, and it's arguable, but there's a lot of scholars that say, if President Trump is convicted as a result of the impeachment that he had, then he can't run again. Okay? So, there's other criminal types of things, but those may or may not happen, but that's outside of the United States Senate. But some of the Senate are going, I don't know. You guys remember, Ava, how many people in the Senate does it take to convict after the House is impeached? 2/3. And how many is 2/3 out of 100? At least. Okay, that's 67, yeah. And let me see, so if all the Democrats, how many Democrats were there in the Senate? It's an easy number to remember because it's split evenly. Thank you very much. So there's 50 Democrats. How many Republicans would have to join them if all 50 Democrats voted to convict Trump? 17, yeah. Is it likely that there's going to be 17? No. I think as many as maybe 5-ish. So they're probably not going to get a conviction. So here's the deal. Some people are saying the Senate should pass a resolution saying, yada, 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 Trump was wrong in stuff that he did after the election and giving that speech and encouraging people to go up to the Capitol building and yada, yada, yada. You understand that? Maybe they will, maybe they won't, I don't know. But that's an example of a resolution. Got it? Questions about resolutions. It requires a simple majority to pass a resolution in the House and one in the Senate. He hasn't said yet. He just hasn't said no. People suspect that he might. Okay? That's one. Most of them, they actually had a vote earlier on, and 45 Republicans said that that there really shouldn't even be a trial because how can you convict after an impeachment of a president who's no longer president? So that's what they voted on. But there were 55 that were like, yeah, well, let's keep doing that. And 55 was enough to keep the process going, but it gave you an indication that there's probably 45 senators, all of them Republican, who were going to say, no, I'm not going to vote to convict. Okay? So that's a pretty clear indication. We kind of see where this is going. So some people are like, well, does that tell him that what he did was okay if you don't convict him after an impeachment? I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting question. Here's the other one I want you to write down. Joint resolution. These are very, very important. Write it down. Joint resolution. Joint resolution. Well, think about that. What do you suppose? Trey, do you think that a joint resolution has to pass the House, the Senate, or both in order to actually count? Write it down. Very good. Both. Okay? And there's a variety of different joint resolutions. I want you to write down the most important type of joint resolution that can ever come. And I wrote it up there on the board. If you can read it with my messy handwriting. It's a constitutional amendment proposal. Got it? If somebody wants to amend the Constitution, said, man, our Constitution, wow, we need to adjust something. You know, I don't know, maybe the president's got too much power to pardon, or maybe we need to adjust this, or who knows. Got to change the Constitution. You would introduce a member of the House or a member of the Senate, introduce a joint resolution. Got it? And it would have to pass both. Now let's check your memory. Michael, by what margin does a joint resolution, a constitutional amendment proposal, have to pass the House as well as the Senate? Give you three choices. 3/4, 2/3, simple majority. 1/3 is too low. 1/3 is like 2/3 disagreed. 2/3, write it down. You'll need 2/3. Okay? 2/3 to pass the House, 2/3 to pass the Senate. Jenny, do you remember? Is a constitutional amendment, after it passes the House 2/3 and passes the Senate 2/3, is it automatically part of the Constitution? No? What does it need next? Quiet. Does it go to the President? No, it doesn't go to the President. Constitutional amendments do not go to the President. No. I mean, the President could be involved. Where does it go next? I'll give you a clue. There's 50 of them. And we're living in one of them. And it's called Idaho. And some of the ones around us are called like Washington, Oregon. The states, exactly. Very good. All right. And what fraction of the states would need to approve, ratify that amendment in order for it to go into the Constitution? 3/4, exactly. Very good. 3/4. Is that easy? It's very hard. How many times has the Constitution been amended? Check on the very back of the paper. 27. Yeah, the last constitutional amendment, like 1992, I know, was number 27. Got that?
I mean, that was like well before you guys were born. Yes?
So, would the Washington vote from a state also be a joint resolution or have a signature from both the House and Senate?
With the what?
Like, if you wanted to block the vote from a certain state,
Oh, within a state, like what is the requirement within that state over whether or not to approve the constitutional amendment or not?
no, like,
Because that's a simple majority in both legislative branches.
so during the election time, this year, there was like student that tries to stop votes in different states in this like final part. Would that also be called a joint resolution?
No.
It has to have both saying and
I don't think so. I don't want to cover the answer on that. It's a little bit more complicated and so forth, because as far as like what is required in order after a presidential election, we'll actually get to it later on. But it basically ends, for the most part, if the Electoral College has a majority. And this year, did the Electoral College have a majority? Yeah, 306 went to Biden. And so basically the role after that is to just go, like I was saying to you guys before, when the Senate like opened up the Christmas present, was it a big surprise? Oh, what did the Electoral College do? No, there's no big surprise. And that's why Vice President Pence said, I'm sorry, it's not within my constitutional authority to stop this. You know? And, I mean, when they had a vote on it in the Senate, they basically were like, okay, there it is. I suppose if you had a majority in the Senate that said we're not going to accept the results as have been passed on to them by the states, then there would have been like a constitutional crisis sort of thing. And the last time we had that was literally back in the time of Rutherford B. Hayes. In 1876, there were like 3 states from the South whose electoral votes were like challenged as being like really shady and so forth. So the Electoral College results, I mean, it ended up being like kind of a tie sort of thing. So they went ahead and voted on it in the Congress, and they cut a deal, the Republicans and Democrats. Do you guys remember this from last year? It was one of the sad things about Reconstruction. It was really sad. You guys don't remember this? It's okay. No, yeah. Anna, what was one good thing that came out of the Civil War? Oh, and what was another good thing that came out of the end of the Civil War? No slavery, right? So all the former slaves in the Deep South are like free and equal and great opportunities. Yeah, how long did that last? Until 1876. Which political party in those days was more about like protecting the rights of freed African Americans? Republican, yeah. So in this fight in the between the Republicans and Democrats, the Republican won, but the Democrats got something very important as a consolation. Ava, do you remember when the slaves were freed in the South, African Americans are going around there? Did they need help from the federal government to make sure that they actually had their rights? Did the military have to help them? Yep. And so was the previous president, Grant, did he send out the military to protect the rights of African Americans? He did. Did the military stay there after this election? No, that was the compromise. That was the compromise. The Democrats are like, okay, we'll let Rutherford B. Hayes be president. He's got 4 years. And the other part of it was, okay, Hayes, you agree? Pull the troops out. And then what happened to African Americans living in the Deep South? Not quite, but in that direction. And then when is that going to get solved? Not for like 100 years. That's what we'll cover this semester. Yeah, no, seriously. We're going to be covering the civil rights movement. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. It kind of ties around to your question of what else can Congress do with respect to the presidential elections and so forth. A reminder, we mostly get it right. We mostly do it the same way we do it every 4 years, and we did that this year. Although this year there was a bit of a hiccup, wasn't there? That's to put it mildly, as far as what happened on January the 6th. Okay? Now, something else I have to tell you. Oh my gosh, because does this look very complicated? Do you think it's very hard for bills to become laws? Do you think you require lots and lots of like compromise? I mean, if anything's going to get done right now and so forth, what the heck? I mean, the Senate, the Democrats are in charge, but really, are they? No, because the Republicans can filibuster. And then the House. Oh my gosh, you ready? Sometimes you just want to go, oh my gosh, could we have a decision here? You ready? Write this on your paper. You ready? Executive order. You're like, what the heck is that? Well, it's executive, and it's an order. It's a piece of paper. You ready? Write this down. And we're jumping ahead a little bit to Article 2, which deals with the presidency. An executive order. Can the president just pick up a piece of paper and go, well, you know what? I'm just going to make a law. Yes. Sometimes. Sometimes it's within the authority of the president to do something. If you don't like it, challenge it. We'll get to the courts and you can see whether or not it'll be challenged. An executive order. Okay, hang on. An executive order, make sure you write this down. An executive order lasts only as long as that president is in authority. Or, if the Supreme Court throws it out, or, here's one, you'll see through this one right away. What if the president signs an executive order saying this is the law, and then the House and the Senate passed a bill saying no, it's not? Yeah, we got you there, President. We passed a bill saying your executive order is no good, and that bill is now on your desk. Oh my gosh, let me see. What are you probably going to do with that bill? Probably going to veto it. Unless it gets overridden, it's done. Hang on just a sec. An executive order can be gotten rid of by the next president. Make sure you write that down, because this is actually very important. When Donald Trump became president, on day one, he had a whole stack of executive orders that he wanted to sign, undoing previous executive orders that had been signed by Barack Obama, President Obama. And guess what? One of the first things that Joe Biden did on day one as president. Exactly, undid a bunch of Trump stuff. Some of those are like the president, we'll see, the president's got a lot of control over military things, okay? So, because, he's the commander-in-chief. We rely on the president to do this, that, and so forth. And so sometimes you look at this, you're like, okay, well, you're in charge of military this, military that, and so forth. Sometimes they're controversial. Take a look, number 32. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, after, let me see, it was December 7th, 1941. Anybody know what happened December 7th, 1941? Anybody know? I'll give you a clue. It happened in Pearl Harbor. Oh, yeah, what? The Pearl Harbor thing happened. Oh, my gosh, they went into the harbor looking for pearls. Oh, my gosh. Does anybody know what happened on December 7th? Thank you very much. We got bombed by the Japanese. Let me see. That means, of course, war. We're at war with the Japanese. So one of the things President Roosevelt did within a month or so was issued an executive order. I want to call it 9066 or something like that, and taking all Japanese American citizens along the coast of the Pacific and putting them into confinement. Oh my gosh. Dang. Well, you know what? Those Japanese Americans fought it in the courts, and the United States Supreme Court ultimately ruled, well, I don't know, it's a national security issue, and it's really inconvenient, but sorry. Lincoln did the same thing. President Lincoln, there were a whole bunch of Southern sympathizers, Confederate sympathizers in some of the northern states, and he's like, man, I can't trust those guys. Lock them up. They didn't have a trial or nothing. They're like, you're a danger. Yeah, it's got an executive order. You got that? An executive order. Sometimes it's really frustrating. Write this down, because it's Sometimes it's really frustrating. During the time of Barack Obama, and now even still, it's been going on for 5 different presidencies, maybe 6, maybe even 7. Immigration is a really very important controversial issue. They can't get a real immigration bill through Congress. There's not enough compromise. There's too many people that have very strong views so that there's not reaching a compromise. You know what Obama did? He signed an executive order saying, well, this is the way it's going to be. Oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to show the video. It's a great video. I'll start it, but you're not going to be able to see it. Don't worry, you'll be able to see it next time. You guys can wipe it down. It's a Saturday Night Live one. Yeah. Keenan Wyans.
You really have to climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Hey, what's that piece of paper doing here?
Oh, you mean me?
This is part of SNL. Just a bill. I'm an immigration bill. Oh, here we go. It gets funnier. Oh, there's President Obama. He just pushed him down the stairs. Oh, oh, oh.
President Obama, what's the big idea? That bill's trying to become a law.
I realize that.
Not too bad. Oh, check this out.
That's it. Wait a second, don't you have to go through Congress at some point? Oh, that's adorable. You still think that's how government works?
Oh, no.
Look at the midterm elections. People really don't want this.
So now you guys are sucked in.
Oh, Mr. Hanson.
Mr. President, is this constitutional?
Mr. Hanson.
Presidents issue executive orders all the time.
That's right. I can do lots of things. I'll create a national park or a new holiday.
Or grant legal status to 5 million undocumented immigrants.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's what you're gonna do.
Oh my God! Well, I didn't have time to read myself. Whoa! Okay, go big or go home.
We're gonna take you to court. We're gonna shift it all.
Don't worry, you'll see this. So, minute, steps. You're back.
What do you think about the government now?
I think I want to go into the private sector.
Yes, what? An iPhone charger? I don't know. I've got a plug in the wall. Do you want to plug in the wall? I don't have an iPhone. So you can use paper and pencil. Oh, do you have like a cord? You need to bring a cord. I can help you with cord stuff. Did you have the stuff for... Oh, here, hang on. No, everyone's included.